recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to Go in Greenville, where every order is a custom order made with fresh ingredients. Wings to Go, 7818 Wesley Street in Greenville. Simply great wings.
Need a part for the right price? Look for that red and blue sign. Henley Auto Supply at 1510 Stonewall. Over 800,000 CarQuest parts to choose from. Domestic, European, and Asian parts. Henley Auto Supply at 903-455-1969. 455-1969. Henley Auto Supply has the right part to keep your vehicle running and backed by the best hometown service. Henley Auto Supply. Great people, great products, great prices. Henley Auto Supply and CarQuest.
Okay, it's 6:03. Let the record reflect it's 6:03 for the regular city council meeting, August 24th, 2021. Call this meeting to order. Please join us in the invocation from Pastor Reginald Cook from the Shiloh Church of God in Christ. How are you tonight?
Testing.
I think the mic.
Testing.
It's on.
It sounds like it's hot.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Every head let's bow. Dear gracious God, we just come to you today, God, first to thank you, God. Thank you for this gathering today, God, the gathering of the wonderful minds. And Lord, we ask you now, God, as you said in 2 Chronicles 7:14, you said, if my people, which are called out by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, and then will you hear from heaven and you will heal the land. So, Father, we thank you now, God, as we come today, God. We ask you now, God, we pray for everyone that's here today, Father. And we pray, God, that as we meet together, God, as we come forth, Father, that you be in the midst of us, Father. and any fear of anything that's going wrong, Father. We pray, Lord, that you came to fix it, and you came to show us the direction, Father. So we thank you now for the directions and what you're doing right now, God, in this great city. So, Father, we ask you, God, we give you glory, we give you honor, and we give you praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have a proclamation tonight that I want to read. We, the mayor and the city council of Greenville, Texas, do hereby recognize September 11th, 2021. Whereas on September 11th, 2001, terrorists attacked our country, causing immense damage and tragic loss to nearly 3,000 lives in Washington, D.C., New York, and Pennsylvania. And whereas Americans have been united in our resolve to protect our freedom, even while the United States is a nation of diversity, whereas throughout our history, Americans have shown the world that we are a nation of people who will overcome any act of terrorism and vanquish any foe who may threaten our cherished way of life. Whereas the United States of America stands as a symbol of freedom and defender of democracy throughout the world, and the compassion that rose in the hearts and minds of American people still serves as the ultimate rebuke to evil of those who attacked us. And now, therefore, we hereby proclaim September 11, 2021 as Patriot Day and National Day of Remembrance to honor the innocent victims who perished as a result of the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. And I'd like to take just a moment to a moment of silence to recognize those victims and ask that any Americans that are stranded, that they have safe passage home. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Please note in your agenda that there are placeholders for citizens to be heard at public testimony. Citizens to be heard give our citizens the opportunity to speak on items that are not scheduled for public hearing or are not on the agenda. Public testimony is intended for all items that are on the agenda, and tonight that starts with item 7A on your program. If you'd like to speak to the council regarding any of these topics, please complete a citizen's comment card and present it to the city secretary. So with that in mind, we will move to item 6A on the agenda, proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. And I'll open the public hearing. Is there any? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Are there citizens to be heard?
Yes.
Yes,
James Evans.
Very sorry.
Probably a bunch of them.
Thank
A
you.
bunch of them.
He told me not to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I hope he's not mad when I finish. 9/11, when it happened, we've got someone in this room that was in the American Airlines. I'm going to choke up myself on this. Was in the American Airlines Command Center, if that's the correct title, Mr. Atkins, and he was stayed up day after day during that time period. And again, I'd like for Al Atkins, let's give Al Atkins a big round of applause. He deserves it. True American hero.
Yeah.
Hope you're not mad at me afterwards, but I had to do that. Greenville, this is a positive thing I'm fixing to say. I'm fixing to ask for your help on something. We've made a lot of changes at times. You do that in your regular life. Council does it too. Several years ago, we thought it was the right thing to do to buy a bank building downtown. We bought it. A few years later, we decided after analyzing and looking at it, it was not a good thing, and we decided to sell it. Council made that decision. This council had always meant the municipal building, since I was a little kid, I guess. And COVID came along. We went live on YouTube. or not YouTube, but Zoom. Then we came to the Civic Center when things changed. Then we moved back to the municipal building, and now we're back here at the Civic Center. Change occurs, and you've got to meet the change. We had a Planning and Zoning Committee meeting last Monday evening that I really enjoyed. It's the best one I've ever attended. And again, I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission. During that time, it became apparent, something that the people on the commission have told me ever since I got on it, and that is our vote really is a rubber stamp. Mr. Ray pointed it out to us ahead of time, and I've thanked him for pointing it out. I didn't take it as an insult. I appreciated him pointing it out to us. It's on tape. Please go back. I spent about an hour and 4 or 5 minutes last night listening to that tape from front to back. Listen especially to the end of it. Listen to the comments that are made by the people on the commission. The change was made, apparently, as I researched it this week, the change was made back when I was on the council. I don't remember it. I don't remember how I voted. I don't remember why we changed it. I do not. But it was changed. And it was originally a supermajority to override the planning and zoning. And since that time, again, we've got I don't know what's happened, but right now that needs to go back to a supermajority of the council to override what planning and zoning does. And I ask you to listen to that tape. We'd like to make a difference when we meet. A good group of people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
John Kelso.
John Kelso, 6005 Horn Drive, Greenville. Don't see any agenda item tonight about playgrounds, so I thought I'd take a moment and talk about playgrounds, maybe 3 minutes actually. Back, I don't know, 10 years ago, our parks were beginning to get run down, some of them quite a bit. Middleton Park was pretty disastrous back then. Even Wright Park, the playground at Wright Park was was dangerous, not safe. It had where the pipes for the monkey bars and the swings went into the ground. There was a concrete, pillar where the pipes were stuck in concrete, and the dirt had eroded away, and there was 6-8 inches of just concrete pillar at the base of those pipes where kids could hit their head if they fell off the monkey bar or whatever. Had about that much bark versus, that much should have been. And, in the last 5 or 6 years, Brett and his team have done a good job of replacing all that stuff. We brought all our playgrounds in all the parks pretty much up to good standards. They're all safe. And so, we need to be careful now that we've got nice stuff. Even Aunt Char's, we've replaced Aunt Char's. It was a massive undertaking. And we don't want it to get run down. We need to be cautious that we're not going to let things get run down now that they're up looking really nice. Even during that period when we've replaced a lot of stuff and made big improvements, things still have gotten run down. Oak Creek Park used to have a jogging trail, walking trail that's now, it's gone. It's disappeared. There was a baseball, softball field with a backstop that has been taken down, and now it's just grass. Even Carver Field, is pretty much abandoned. So there has been some decline, even though we've made tons of improvements. So I just want you to be cautious. Let's don't fall back in the trap of now that we got everything nice and shiny, just letting it go to pot again. It takes a long time to go to pot, I realize that, but you got to keep with it every year and be conscious of it. What are some ways, maybe examples? The dog park at Arnold Park is a great example of a private public partnership where Park Street Association helped pay for building that dog park there at Arnold Park. Maybe there's other things. Amphitheater. How many years have we been wanting an amphitheater at one of the parks or something like that? Maybe that's an opportunity for a private partnership kind of a thing. I just want you to be cautious. Let's keep things looking good like they are right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelso.
Reginald Kitchen.
I'm I'm Reginald Kitchen, 1403 Glendale Street, Greenville, Texas. I was up here before about the lakes, and I'm back. I was wondering why nothing has been done about it. I mean, I've had no contact with anybody about making improvements or anything. I could go out there to try to fish, and the grass is still high. I mean, nobody wants to get bit by snakes or chiggers or whatever. It's not safe for the fishermen. We have to crowd around each other to try to fish whatever. I don't see the issue of opening it up and letting us go in there. We're responsible enough to drive around and not drive into the lakes. People pay their taxes, they spend their monies off, watch people come from out of town and have to turn around and throw their bait in the water because there's no spot to fish. Nothing's changing. I was out there today, nothing's changed. They mow one spot and the rest of where you fish at is high. So what do we do? Is there any way we can come to some type of agreement or something? Yeah, I say I have cameras out there. That should be enough to see who's causing the problems. Cite them, don't cite us. We're being punished for something we didn't do. But we spend $30 on fishing license and we can't fish anywhere unless we go out of town. Tax dollars are going elsewhere. We spend our money elsewhere to fish when we should be able to fish here.
Thank you.
Deidre Mead.
Deidre Mead, 414 Division Street, Greenville, Texas, 75401. I'd like to thank you all for your service. I know this is a tough job, it's a thankless job, and a lot of decisions. I'd like to ask a series of questions. What can I, normal, ordinary citizen, do to influence our city and council to embrace a more proactive, which I don't think we're bad on that, but a firmer stance on the future development of our city? I've heard this quote that all development is good development. Do we still consider that true? Because I do not. Are we planning with binoculars or a long-range bird's-eye view for our city? Are we actually planning at all? Or are we just reacting to the latest zoning request in a vacuum with no context? Are we going to use the voices and representation of our P&Z committee? Are we going to let them do their job and consider their voice? Are we going to hold the developers that come to our city to a high standard? Are we going to follow through with the myriad special considerations given via waivers? Who keeps track of all that? Where do you go find that? A waiver is given and 3, 4, 5 years later something's done. Who checks that? Who follows through? Are we going to look or ask ourselves of every deal presented, is this good for our city? All of our city, not just the south side or the north side or our businessmen or our downtown, but all of our city. It's a good question. It should be asked for everything. How many zoning variances have been passed and started or completed? Where do we keep track of all that? I think about the nursing home on Stonewall Street that was approved and grass here, for sale sign in front of it. But they got their waiver. I think about the liquor stores that have been approved. The old Best Western, our eastern gateway to our city, it still stands in absolute, it's abysmal. We need to address it. We've addressed it. We need to follow through. We need to stand strong together. We need to hold our own feet to the fire as well as everyone we do business with. We need to follow through. Development is coming to our city. Let's manage it. And always consider what is best for our city long term. And use the plan we have in place while we draft another. Don't always kick the can down the road. Let's plan. We can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mead.
Wayne Morris.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wayne Morris, 5600 Vale Street, Greenville. I'm going to keep it really short, generic. We have a busy night, and I know you all have a lot of things to accomplish even after the meeting's done. Just wanted to briefly mention or touch on several resolutions on the agenda. We'll not go into them since they are on the agenda. But the impact fee subcommittee, that's been an item of interest.
Mr. Morris?
Yes, sir.
You need to speak on those when they come up in the agenda. Since they're on the agenda, this is not the appropriate forum to be speaking on anything that's on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't mean to correct you, but I think...
No, that's fine, sir.
I'm sorry.
My other question is, when can the citizens expect to see an update on the 5-year comprehensive plan? That's not on the agenda tonight. Once again, that dovetails into something that is on the agenda tonight. But the 5-year comprehensive plan has been underway for quite a long time now, and it might be time for a new 5-year comprehensive plan before we see this one. So any update would be appreciated on that, so the citizens know where we're standing on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
No more.
Okay. Okay, now we'll move to item 6A, open the public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2021-2022. Does anyone want to comment on that budget, on the budget? Do you have any?
We do have cards.
Okay.
Would you like to speak in favor or in opposition?
Well, you can, yes, you can speak in opposition if you'd like, or in favor, either way. You can speak either way that you'd like to speak.
Okay. Then James Evans.
Okay.
I hate mic stands, I've always held it in my hand. James Evans, 6410 Buena Vista Drive, Greenville, Texas, 75402. On the budget, last year we were embroiled in an election for senior tax freeze. We won by right at 85%. About 15% voted against us. Over 85, around just short of 85% voted for us. I had one or two people in the small group that opposed us made the comment, once you get this, you're going to forget about the other citizens that aren't 65 or near 65. I promised them that I wasn't going to do that. And so I've tried to bring up some questions, wrote one letter to the editor, and again, I'm tonight once again asking that you cut all the fat from the budget. I would love to see a number around that started with 58 point something, if we possible. The 61 right now is not acceptable. I would love to see us get down to 58 at least. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Thank you.
John Kelso.
John Kelso. Okay.
John Kelso, 6005 Horn Drive, Greenville. I had a 3-minute dissertation right up here, and I caught the end of your budget presentation, so I'm not sure if I even need to say anything, but I'll go ahead. What I was going to say was, is there a time when a city might lower the tax rate too low? And if that, of course there is, but how do you know when you hit that point? What would happen? What would you see if it went too low? Now, my point was going to be, it looked like we were either 62, 61, 2, or 59, and going to 59, you were going to be cutting out a lot of stuff, and maybe 59 be going too low because you don't want to cut services. But it looked like at the end, you did some monkeying around with the spreadsheet, and decided, hey, what if we lower the fund balance goal from 19 to 17? And I love that idea. I'll talk about fund balance here in a minute. But what I wasn't clear on is when you did that, was it at 61.2 or was it at 59? So
59.
it was at 59, great. So as long as whatever happens, that looked good, that final thing. But as you take the next month and fine tune everything, hopefully you won't say, okay, well, hopefully you'll leave it right like it was, and I can be done with that. One thing on fund balance. The fund balance, whatever you've decided the goal needs to be for the fund balance, 15%, 19, 17, 20, whatever you've decided it needs to be and you're comfortable with, don't make it any greater than that. If you've decided it needs to be 17%, you're comfortable with that, it's an emergency fund for emergencies. That's the way I understand what the purpose is. And, you know, it's our money, it's our taxes. We gave you that money to spend. Now, I'm not proposing to take it to zero, not at all. But all the money we give you, you should spend it wisely and don't make this big piggy bank out there. If you only think you need 17%, man, don't go a penny higher on 17% for your fund balance. So I think that's a great idea to use that fund balance percent to make a good, healthy budget where you won't have to cut out all that stuff that was proposed. And if it's 59 cents, then I don't think that's too low if you lower your fund balance. If you raise the fund balance back, 59 is too low. Thank you.
Abby
Thank you.
Nicholson.
Abby Nicholson, 8820 Kiowa Drive, Greenville, Texas, 75402. Mine is very short and sweet. City taxes are too high. They're too high, guys. Please lower them. Please use our money wisely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wayne Morris.
Once again, Wayne Morris, 5600 Vale Street, Greenville. I'm one of the lucky ones. I have my property tax frozen, but I'm here speaking for those who don't. We all know that we initially set a budget. It's just like buying a car. Dealer comes in high, you negotiate, play the game, eventually settle something in between. Realistically and hopefully, 0.612 is a non-player. When you've got the county and GISD coming in at 4 or 5 cents on the 100 down, let's be serious, okay? We all know there's a lot of fat in the budget. 0.59, 0, 0.590, a little bit better, but I think we can do a little bit better. What about 58, 58.5? Take a hard look at the budget. I don't have all the information you do, but I've gone through the budget, and I see some things that can be cut, maybe paid for out of other funds. You know, just for an example, this is just picking one. Mobile command post. How much money is in the asset forfeiture fund? Can that be used to pay for that? That frees up a couple $100,000 right there. Just an idea. Let's not be wed to any certain number until you take your last final look. Pay raises, city pay raises. Our employees deserve one. They didn't get one last year. It's been proposed 4%. That adds $602,288 to the budget. Throw in the bonus pot, $100,000. That's $702,288. Okay, bump it up to 5%. That 1% adds another $154,662. These are your own numbers. That totals out to $857,000, more or less, some change. throw in 6 new positions at $532,439. That bumps up that portion alone an additional $1,389,000 and some change. Like I said, every penny counts. I'm not saying don't give raises. Just remember, once we give them, we can't take them back. It would not be fair. It's just not done. We have just added that, plus any future raises, to every future budget. So when you decide on that number, let's hope and pray that all those sales tax dollar stores we see in the paper every month keep on rolling, because when initial U.S. Census data shows the city only grew by about 3,100 people over a period of 10 years, better keep that money coming in to pay for every cent that you budget now and in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. We don't have any more. Okay, there being no more comments, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move. Oh, I'm sorry.
You have one more?
30 Ellis, 8580 Cedar Creek Lane. We did not give our employees any type of raise last year.
Larry, I don't think they can hear you. Will
Okay.
you step
We
up?
didn't give our employees any type of raise last year. And I applaud this council for already having in the budget to give a 4%, 5% raise to our employees. Thank you for doing it. Thank this council for taking on all the hard issues. We've had a lot of hard issues that this council has already addressed. We really appreciate that. But you know what? What I just heard, I don't really get it. Our community development is a profit center for this city. And so in the last year, we failed to hire one person that could have been an extra clerk in that department. Well, guess what? We saved 60 grand. We didn't hire that person. But what did happen is, then all of a sudden, we couldn't take our permits down, and every time we take one, it's 2 grand. 2 grand a pop. So now there would be maybe 30, 40 a month that didn't get issued. So let's see, let's think about that for a second. Let's just call it 80 grand. Now let's extrapolate that for a year. That's $960,000. That's a lot of money. And when you talk about, well, we're going to give some raises, well, guess what? Not everybody stays employed with the city. We have people that leave. That's what we do in a company. We shuffle our employees around when things change in our company. So if you give everybody a raise, guess what? I bet next year at this time, some of those people won't even be here. They will have moved or something will change in their circumstances. So I don't think that's a valid argument to make. And I think what we need to do is, I think we need to be thinking about all the money that's going to come in besides what's in the budget. It's going to be all of our impacted, which we can talk about later. That money's coming. It's going to come to our city. And builders, developers, they should pay. It's time for them to pay. You can't swoop into town, build a house, get in your truck, drive out of town without giving the city of Greenville some money. The city of Greenville needs money for infrastructure. And we need the 6 employees, because guess what? We lost some really good employees last year. They didn't move. They went to other cities and got jobs. Why? Money. Money. So I would just ask that we be thoughtful about, let's look at the long term, like Deidre said, and let's look at our employees and how we retain them. If Scott Smith loses a policeman on the beat, man, think what it costs us to retrain somebody all over again. We need to look at the big picture. The big picture was, for me, was I opened up one of over 100 tax statements, and one of my properties went from $806,000 to $3.7 million. Well, guess what? That's okay. We're not protesting any of our properties. We're going to pay it off. We live here, and we need to think of the big picture of Greenville, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to pay our fair share. And guess what? We've got the money to do what we need to do. Is there a way maybe to tweak a little here, tweak a little there? Yes, there is. And you guys are doing a great job. And I'm sure Dr. Ransom, Mayor Ransom, and everyone here, y'all will figure that out. And we trust you. That's why we elected you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. No more?
One more.
Okay.
Deidre Mead, 414 Division Street, Greenville, Texas, 75401. I'd just like to ask you to consider lowering the tax rate as much as possible. The taxpayers are, it's difficult when you have properties that the values go up and the tax rate stays the same, so you're paying more and more money and you're not seeing the services, and the developers come in and don't pay impact fees. So basically I feel like part of my money is funding development, and that money goes outside of Greenville often. With the rise in values and the number of houses that have been built, I really feel like the tax rate should be lowered. I'd hope that the budget will show that, and a considerable amount. I mean, my taxes are going up above 10% every year, my tax valuation on my properties. More than 10% every year. And that adds up for me, and it certainly adds up for the city. So please consider lowering the tax rate as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll close this public hearing for the proposed budget. We'll move on to item 6B, which is consideration of an action and ordinance approving an amendment to the city ordinances applicable to what is known as Town Center. I'm not going to read the entire item, but this is a contract that our city established probably about 10 years ago. One of the first meetings when I was on the council 6 years ago, we attempted to settle this agreement. One of the things about this agreement that we've reached now is the TERS money, the TERS funds that would flow into this agreement encompass the entire 1,900 acres of our TERS fund. And that was a problem for us because Town Center had a first right to these funds. They were encumbered essentially. And for that reason, it created problems when Greg Sims or Daniel or whatever attempted to work out incentives for other businesses. So being able to work out this contract that we have now is a big positive, I think, for our city. By doing that, it's projected to raise about $7.5 or $9 million will flow to our city that can be used for a number of other projects which couldn't be used before over the next 10 years. So I'd like to ask Steve to come up and address it if he will. I want to make one correction. It was the paper reported today that both the P&Z and the TERS board failed to pass this ordinance, and in fact the TERS board did pass the ordinance. I believe it was 6-1 with one dissenting vote. So I want to make that correction too to the audience. Steve, you want to talk about this?
Yes, sir. I'll talk a little bit about it. I know there's other folks here that'll speak about it too, but the actual first plan development came about in 2013. At the time when it got started, they had worked up some deals with big box stores, mainly in the mall, when it was a mall. And what ended up happening was the owner of the mall decided to make it a strip center and all those big box stores stayed. So then it caused them to have to go out and try to do other things. We did amend this PD back in 3 or 4 years ago, I believe, and it's just dead. There's just nothing happening there. As you all know, retail, especially since COVID, has kind of died, and I think all those folks are looking at a different way of doing business now. And you can buy groceries, they'll bring it to you. You know, it's just kind of changed. So what we've got here, and this is not an overnight thing. It's been talked about for, I know I've been involved with it, I think at least 2 years. We've been working at doing all this, but basically what this is going to do, it's going to change up a little bit of how they can market the property from what it was. to try to get something moving on it. And so this new PD explains what can and can't happen in certain places and where and whatever. I know there was a little bit of talk about the overlay district. I don't think it'll be affected. All the property on front, and it's in the PD itself. Talks about everything up front has to remain retail. I see that as being a restaurant row up front. All the cross access from one property to another, all that will come into play. That's still in the overlay district, and we will certainly enforce that. I think if you've been out there behind the restaurants, there's a fire lane that goes through there behind Tamales, and the property we're talking about mainly that this is going to really get into is behind that property there. I did take it to P&Z last Monday night. A lot of discussion about it, some good presentations, and I will shut up so you can hear those. But at the end of the day, the vote was 7-1 to deny this change, if you will call it. And I'm going to kind of leave it there because I think they'll do a much better presentation of the actual PD itself. But I'd answer any questions if you got any.
Any questions? Daniel, would you like to comment on this? You or Julie Ford is here.
Sure.
One of you.
Yeah, if you want. We can both come up here and answer questions. Also, the developer's attorney.
Yes. Would you introduce Julie for the audience, please?
I'll give just a real brief overview. You have this item, which is an amendment to the PD zoning ordinance, which is the land use component. You also have item 14 on your agenda, which is action item on any executive session items about the PD 28 amendment. So I want to be sure everyone knows that all three documents about the PD amendment are in the council packet in case any member of the public wants to review them. There is the PD zoning ordinance, the First Amendment to the TERS agreement, and then the First Amendment to the 380 agreement. Both of those agreements do say that they will become effective once the zoning ordinance is adopted and the zoning ordinance is effective. As a reminder, your city charter provides that any ordinance which contains a penalty has to be published within 10 days of the vote, and it becomes effective on the actual date of publication. So once that zoning ordinance summary caption is published, that will be the effective date for that ordinance. And since the agreements aren't effective until that ordinance is effective, you may see the two agreements, if you happen to approve them tonight, to be on a future consent agenda, just to be able to ratify that the PD ordinance was published and effective and confirm the effectiveness of the two agreements based on that ordinance going into effect. And I'll let Daniel speak to you a little bit more about details.
Well, just as some general history for the council and for the people who are out here tonight, we first entered into an agreement with this developer over 10 years ago. The developer at that time had the property set up for a majority of the space to go to big box retail stores. Shortly after that, right around the time that the major and the era of big box stores, especially in towns like this, effectively ended. And so since then, there have been two amendments to this agreement that were with different iterations of the council. And they both made some major changes about locations where things could go. Neither one of those worked out basically for the developer as a business plan. And so now this effort that started in January of last year is an effort to de-handcuff the city from the developer, allow them to build more things by right, and to, in exchange us not getting what the city initially for. They're taking a gigantic financial haircut in the money that the city is going to be required to repay. And so over the past year and a half, we've been working toward an agreement. There were some stops and starts during that time period, especially as it related to some particular things like parking spaces per unit. The agreement that packet, the same agreement now that we've been talking about for about 3.5 months. It would allow you quite a few apartment complexes if they decide to, and other things that we've discussed. We can go through that and answer any questions that you have about what's in there. Obviously, before any vote happens on this, we're going to do the public hearing. But Julie and I can answer questions about any particular section that you'd like to know more about. And then, like I said, Missy Ventura is here. She's the developer's attorney. And to the extent that directed to her, I'm sure that she'd be able to answer those as well.
Thank you, Daniel. Ms. Ventura, make a statement.
Ms. Stevens, 9406 Biscayne Boulevard, Dallas, Texas, 752, on behalf of the applicant and the property owner. As your professional team has explained, we've been working really hard for a long time on a win-win collaborative effort. Amendment to the existing TIF agreement and an amendment to the existing 3A. We understand P&Z recommended denial, but we're here before you this evening respectfully requesting that you approve that package of documents that we've all worked so hard to bring to you this evening. I'm available to answer questions if you've got specific questions. Other than that, I would respectfully request that you approve the PD amendment along with the TIF agreement amendment and the 380 agreement amendment.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to open up the public hearing for this item. Do you have anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this amendment? Anyone speak in opposition? Not being anyone in opposition, is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this amendment?
Larry Ellis, 8586. Summer was not here when this all happened. No one on this council was here when this all happened years ago. It's a bad deal. But guess what? 1,900 acres of turfs is tied up in this mess. And we need to free that up so we can collect, in the future, the tax money into the city. 1,900 acres. Think what we could build on 1,900 acres and get revenue from. This is simple. Please vote to approve this. And let's get this behind us. And when you walk out of here, you know, let's have the Herald Banner figure out how soon they can get it posted in the paper so we can get the clock running.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this amendment?
James Evans, 6410 Buena Vista Drive, Greenville, Texas, 75402. I represent myself tonight, just James. This is not P&Z talking, just James. I talked to someone this afternoon, former city employee, that worked on this project back in 2008, the pre-planning that went into the contract later. I was involved from 2013 to 2019 on the city council wrestling with this project. I urge you to approve this tonight very strongly. Let's get this behind us. Let's free up that land for use. Let's free up the money. So again, I urge you very much to approve this tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Anyone else would like to speak in favor of this amendment? State your name for the record, please.
My name is Dave Dreiling, 6302 Villa Fontana, Greenville, Texas, 75402. I would like to follow up on what the mayor has said about the amount of effort on this contract. And the TERS contract that we have currently, that we, the city, has, is one of the worst contracts that's ever been produced. There's been a lot of people working hard on it, trying to get it corrected. We've done numerous amendments and work to try and make changes, and we thought we would get there on several occasions, and then things would happen that we didn't get it. The way the contract is written is it does tie up all of the TERS money for the 1,900 acres, and that's money that cannot be used by the city council for any other project until their debt is paid off. With the new contract, the way that I understand it, unless you've made some major changes, is that reduces it down to where the only TERS money that they're entitled to would be what happens on their 62 acres or 49 acres that they have. That allows the city to utilize the money that is brought in on that other 1,900 acres so that they can do things such as repair roads or make other deals with other contractors to try and bring additional business in here. This has been a long time coming. There's been a lot of discussions on it. I know Daniel and the mayor have worked exceedingly hard on this, and I would strongly encourage you to vote in favor of passing this. It's a great opportunity for the city to get rid of a terrible contract, get one that can be enforced and that doesn't have a lot of loopholes, and it also frees up money for us. So I encourage you to look at it, think about it, but I encourage you to vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dreiling. You'll always be my mayor. Anyone else would like to speak in favor of this?
Got one more.
Greg Sims.
Yeah, I'm Greg Silver, Board of Development. I'm speaking as a city resource. I'm not, I wasn't called on to come and speak, but I volunteered. Board of Development has not asked me to do this. So this is a personal, just giving you a little history, Mayor and Council, on this project from a staff resource point of view. I was hired, it may go longer than 3 minutes. I was hired in 2011 to come here and go to work here and build our community. This project was already done when I came to town too. And the developer told me, the landlord told me that I think he bought into the property in 2007, maybe 2006. Think about that. How many children have been born since 2006? I mean, that's been 15 years. We're in 2021. And still, limited development has happened. We, in fact, Board of Development helped bring the water park to the table. Until we brought the water park to the table, he did not have a pad site sold to a restaurant. We brought the water park into him. He did the deal. He did the deal with the water park. And granted, he had to make that deal. But then the other restaurants popped, okay, once the water park came in. Since then, 15 years he's been in this property. He hasn't made a whole lot of money on this property because the debt load, the money they put in with all the streets and utilities, he couldn't sell a piece of land. He couldn't deliver a piece of land because it didn't have water and sewer. It didn't have a street. He had to put a street in. He had to put actually 2 streets in. So he had to do a lot of work to get to where he is. But unfortunately, during that 15-year time period, you remember back 15 years ago where our Crossroads Mall was. What did it look like? We had doors closing. We had, the interior of the mall was not where it was. It was built in the 80s. It was ready for a rehab. And so we were fortunate to have another company come in and redevelop the mall. And we actually, the city did a 380 deal with them as well to get the mall to where it is today. Now we've had some fallout, but we've had that backfill. Things are backfilling in the mall right now. But all those stores had a choice at that time period. They had a choice to go next to Lowe's, or they could go at the mall and redo the mall, or they could go on this property you're talking about tonight. What did they choose? They chose to go on the mall. They didn't choose to go next to Lowe's. And so what happened is, Academy and Hobby Lobby then come shopping after that. They come looking for sites. They had the choice. Did they go next to Lowe's, or did they go on this property where we're talking about tonight? They clearly had a choice. They chose to go to Lowe's, both of them. And those stores are independent. They could go either place they wanted to go. So my point is, you know, evidently, this piece of land that we all, you know, the developer thought in 2009 or 10, thought was going to be a retail power center, is not going to be a retail power center. I think we just all had to come to that conclusion, that realization. I mean, my gosh, 15 years, doesn't that help us? If you remember, even the land where the Lowe's and the Hobby Lobby and the Academy was, I think there was an old industrial plant there. There was the old Steinbeck farm. And we had an old car lot up on the corner, if you remember that. All of that got redeveloped and redone, as well as, you know, over time with what's there today. So I guess what I'm getting at here, and also I've had another major brand grocery store came in and saw us over the last 6 months looking for a site to build a major brand grocery store. They told me that site over there does not work for them. It doesn't work. And so for their own reasons, it doesn't work. So a point is, this developer, I think, if, you know, for them to make money, they got to sell land. And they haven't been able to do that, you know, for a long time. So I think rather than, they spent a ton of money on attorneys, they spent a ton of money on engineers, trying to come up with a highest and best use plan they feel like is best for the market. All of these projects, Home Depot, Academy, all of them go to where they think the highest and best use of land is for their store. So all I can say is everybody's done their job. P&Z did their job, HERS did their job, because P&Z doesn't look at the finances, the financial piece of this project. This is a two-pronged problem. We've got a zoning case and we've got a financial case. P&Z only looks at the zoning case. They don't look at the financial case. HERS looks at both because they have to deal with the TERS budget. You, council, looks at both. You have to deal with the zoning and the TERS budget. So you have to consider everything that's involved with this whole process. Everything that's been said tonight is very true. We will, you know, this will relieve the 1,900 acres of a burden that we could help other development happen. I get all the time people asking, hey, you got a TERS? Yeah, we got a TERS. Can't use it. Got to get in line. Got to get in line. Well, wait, well, when's that going to be solved? I don't know. Been around for 15 years. I don't know. It's holding us back. This project is holding our development back. So what this developer wants to do today with his plan, you know, is what he thinks the highest and best use in the market will deliver. He's not going to come in here, I don't believe, and build a bunch of stuff that he's not going to be able to lease, because then he can't pay his bills. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say, is that kind of lays it all out. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Sims? Thank you, Mr. Sims. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this amendment, these amendments?
Frank Stevenson, 11614 Michelle Drive, Greenville, Texas, 75402. I'm in favor of it for simple reasons. One, when I drive past Home Depot and I look at that land, it looked tore up, and we need to build something on there I hear him talking about 15 years. 15 years is way too long. If nothing has happened in 15 years and somebody's willing to do something, to put something on there, let's do that. I remember in high school, McKinney and Greenville was the same size. But look at McKinney now. And it's because they opened up, and we have to open up. We can't hold back things. Greenville is prime for growth, prime for development. Let's develop.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any discussion from the council? If not, what is the pleasure of the council? I believe there are 3 motions will be required to pass this. Is there? Yes, Julie?
The motion related to the actual PD zoning ordinance would be now, motions on the financial piece of the agreements would actually be under item 14 of the agenda.
Okay. But there are 3 motions, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know which one she's talking about?
Mayor, could we just consolidate those all and put them in that right now?
Just,
I'm asking, could we go ahead and consolidate 14 and do them all at the same time?
Into one?
Yes, you could agree to take action on this and item number 14 concurrently and move item 14 up on the agenda.
Consolidate them under item 14, is that what you're saying?
Well, no, now, you can move item 14 up to now.
Okay,
and,
okay.
do everything together.
Okay, good idea. Okay, I'll move item 14 on the agenda to item 14 on the agenda. I don't have that item, but yes. Okay, so we are in open session. Oh, well, these are for the PD 28. Right. So you can make the motions now, right?
For all 3?
Yes.
No, just one at a time.
Okay.
Yes. This is Kristen's motion.
All right, well, I make a motion to approve the zoning ordinance amending Plan Development 28 as presented and contained in the council agenda packet.
Second. Are you done?
Go ahead, yeah.
I was just going to second your motion.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to move the second motion?
He did.
Okay, you moved all of them. Okay. Okay. What is the pleasure of the council then to vote? What is the vote, council? I don't have a. I don't know what happened.
We're going to Carl?
I don't know why it's not working.
I can't read it. Okay.
Come on, Tim. Speak your magic.
Where do we have to point things?
Yeah, just vote by hand. All in favor, raise your hand. And it passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right, now we need to do the other 2.
Okay.
If you want to read that second one.
Yeah. I move to approve the First Amendment to Development Agreement between the City, the Terrace Board, and the 321 Greenville TC as presented and contained in the council agenda packet.
Washington moves it. Is there a second? Second. Please vote. Okay, by hand. And it passes unanimously. You can make us the third motion.
All right, and my third one, I move to approve the First Amendment to Economic Development Agreement between the City and 321 Greenville TC as presented and contained in the council agenda packet.
Is there a second? A second. Mr. Cruz seconds. All vote, please. And it passes unanimously. Okay, so we'll move to Ordinance 7A, consider an action and ordinance authorizing additional funds for the increase to Bandit Construction. Press. Thank you very much for those of you who are here tonight.
Good
Good evening, council. Several meetings ago, we approved a construction contract for Bandon Construction.
I don't think the mic's working.
The mic working?
It's not hot. I don't know.
And at that point in time, council had approved a portion of the contract for $300-something. Since that time, we have moved additional monies into this particular line item, and Bandon's construction bid was a little over $600,000 for all street repairs. And what we're asking now is to increase his contract to his original bid amount, be able to do these street repairs. His bond amount, he's already furnished a bond to the city for the $600-some-thousand for his original bid amount. So we're just trying to get the monies caught up with the construction work.
Okay. Are there any questions for Chris?
Just to be clear, Press, this is additional monies that we have found in the accounts that we're going to add on to this flat rate contract to do additional work.
Yes, sir. This was the monies that we consolidated from other accounts into the 2021 SIP that we allocated for street repairs. And so we had additional funds put into that, which enables us to increase his contract to his full bid amount.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's the question I had as well. Thanks, Chris. That's what I got.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the council regarding this ordinance?
I'll move to approve.
Second. Second. Mr. Freeman, second. Vote by hand. We're still voting by hand, I guess.
I'm not sure.
And it passes unanimously. Moving on to 7B, consider an action of an ordinance authorizing construction contract with Tricon Services. Press?
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, last week, the two metal culverts under Beverly Drive failed. One of them collapsed, and we called it a bridge, but the road had sunk to the point we had to close the road off completely. We got a emergency declaration on this because we need to get that road open back up.
Away, do you think?
We have a bid from Tricon Services to do this work. And if the council remember, this is part of a three-part plan we had to fix the drainage in Bowie Circle and Beverly Drive. So this is a portion of that work that we have put, hopefully, stays in the budget for this year to fix the rest of it. But because the bridge or the culverts collapsed, we need to get out there and get this done now before it does any more damage than what it's already done. So we're asking council to approve this emergency contract so we can get this phase of the project completed sooner than later.
Are there any questions for Mr.?
No, but I would like to make a comment because of the proximity to Bowie Elementary and the traffic flow associated with school being open. It is important that we get this fixed as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
I have one question. What is the amount of the contract?
$259 and some change. Our original estimate on that was right around $300,000, so we're within our original scope of what we were trying to do.
Okay. Any further questions? Not, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I second.
Second. Motion and a second, please
Will
vote.
you try your buttons again?
You can vote now.
Yeah.
I pointed to.
Oh, mine's not working.
It's not.
Pointed everywhere.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Pointed everywhere.
I'm trying.
I got one. All right.
Oh.
Okay.
Pointed there from there.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break before we move into resolutions, so we'll be right back in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Summer, I sent you an email. I sent you a text.
I'd appreciate it. I'm going to move. Sorry. Okay, all the council are present. I'm going to move item 8C up in the agenda, considering an action on a resolution to for electric system revenue bonds. Steve, can you?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me start by saying the Juice General Manager, Alicia Hooks, and the CFO, Erica Contreras, would love to be here. They're watching, but they're both under COVID protocol. We do have Zach McDonald from Juice and Maris Venegas if we have any questions that I can't answer. So I will be doing the majority of the presentation tonight. So this transaction is a transaction that we priced this morning. It was for revenue bonds for Juice to fund $14,667,771 in proceeds for projects which were primarily transmission and distribution projects. The underwriting, we negotiated with the underwriters this morning, Huntington Capital Markets and Stifel Nicholas, and we received an interest rate of 2.42%. Prior to that, we got a rating from Standard & Poor's, which was A-rated for Juice, the electric utility. We were able to qualify and purchase bond insurance, so we basically purchased a AA rating from Build America Mutual. So the bonds were sold at AA rating. The final maturity on the bonds is is 2051, and the average debt is approximately $680,000 a year. And what you're doing tonight is actually approving ordinance that was passed by the Juice Board already. And so if you approve this tonight, we'll close the bonds on September the 8th. This is a graph of the debt that Juice currently has, and you can see that it goes pretty much through 2051. The yellow lines are a debt issue that will issue 2 years from now for the remainder of their current capital budget that will be paid by debt. And the rest of those are, as you can see, the debt is paying off over time. So their debt structure is very good with declining debt, so they have a lot of capacity if they ever have any need for growth or other capital projects. This is the debt service on the bonds in question. You can see that the coupon rates, which are anywhere from 2.5% to 5%, are higher mostly than the yield on the bonds at 2.42%. And in order to do that, as you can see on this page, the purchasers of the bonds have to give extra cash up front to receive that higher coupon rate. So we're selling $13,885 million in bonds, and we're receiving proceeds of over $15 million to fund the project of $14,667,000 and some change, and pay all the costs of issuance, including the fee to pay for the bond insurance. So with that, this has been a lengthy process that Juice has gone through. It's culminating in this event tonight, and we do recommend that you award the $13,885,000 electric utility system revenue bonds, Series 2021. I'd be glad to answer any questions. Here.
Are there any questions for Mr. Adams? Yes.
Just one, Stephen. The bond rating of down to A, that is as a result of all that
Correct.
Winter Storm Uri issues that a lot of the utilities took a bond downgrade because of the cost.
That's correct. They got downgraded from A+ to A, so one notch. Many utilities got downgraded a lot more than that. Juice did a good, really good job during that event, and I expect over time that if things continue the way they are now, that they will be again moved back up to a higher rate.
Any other questions? Okay. What is the pleasure of the council regarding this item?
Move to approve.
Your second?
Second.
Please vote. And the motion passes unanimously. Now we'll move. Thank you very much, Steve. You bet. Thank you. Now we'll move back to resolution item 8A. Adopting the 2022 annual work plan for the Greenville Board of Development. Mr. Sims.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just to preface this real quick, Barbara reminded me that this month is the 80th anniversary of the creation of the Greenville Board of Development. How about that? Yeah. That's pretty good. What a great job Board of Development's done in 80 years. None of us here were around at that time period. But today, what before you is the Board of Development. The board and the staff been working the last few months, as we all do, with our new plan of work. And they made some few changes and analyzed everything that's in here. I'm not going to read it all through here, but definitely hitting all the high spots of business retention, expansion, and our industrial district development, helping facilitate road construction. If you remember, we had in our budget, we helped the city build Industrial Drive, for a new project. If you remember the refrigerated warehouse going in. So we worked with the city on that. That's in here. And then key project development, certainly, continue to work with all our partners to bring new development to Greenville and to continue to work with all the site selectors in the governor's office and the Dallas Chamber and all the real estate brokers to continue to grow us in our industrial sector. 2020, we all want to forget that, but definitely did not stop working, and we put out the fishing lines in 2020 that were this year. Once travel got released for corporate travel again, started coming in. So we have a lot of activity, a lot of things are going on. I've informed y'all, a lot of exciting things. But basically, what before you is the current board's approval. They've approved this last week in a board meeting. We want to point out, they are really concerned, not concerned, but really focused on accountability. And so your fiscal accountability, what we do, and how we represent our citizens and our return on investment. This is investment. These funds are investment for our citizens to put back in the community, to grow our community with jobs, keep the jobs we have, grow our tax base. A lot's been talked about, our tax rate tonight. Well, 10 years ago, you remember what the tax rate was then. We're in a lot better shape, both in new development that's happened and certainly appreciation of values that all of us have enjoyed through our homes and our businesses. And so it's been a great run for Greenville. And boy, it's just getting started. I'm telling you. I talked to a guy today, we're probably about, I don't know what the current number is, 20, 25, 30% built out. I mean, we got a lot of land built out in city limits. And so it's coming. It is coming, and it's beating our door down. You do have a concept plan in here that we continue to work on. We want to see the board wants to see the western side be developed in our industrial district. Certainly support our largest employer in North Texas, L3 Harris, on what they're doing down there, the great work they do, and our airport and city council does, and our FAA connection with the airport. So definitely support everything that's going on there. But I'll take any questions, Mayor. I know y'all have been in your packet. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to take them. If not, that'll be all I have on that one.
Any questions for Mr. Sims?
I think I was really happy
Yes, sir. We've been fielding a few of those automobile manufacturers. In fact, we fielded, we didn't know who they were, but we fielded the Tesla plant. And we actually worked on that project. They ended up in Austin. And there's been a couple others that we've worked on. It seems to be, if you watch anything about, the automobile environment, there's billions of dollars is being invested in electric vehicle manufacturing. And so, believe me, our world is going to be turned upside down in 10 years. Probably there'll be 3 times as many electric cars on the road in 10 years. And so a lot of those car plants are putting in electric manufacturing plants. So, they're saying that the technology is taking us to all new levels, and not only electric cars, but self-driving electric cars. So the world is changing. We're in a revolutionary period here. So yes, we are focused on that. We know about that, and if we can, work on that, we will.
Any other questions? Okay. What is the pleasure of the council regarding the 2022 annual work plan for the Greenville Board of Development? There's a motion, second?
Second.
Second, please vote. And it passes unanimously. Item 8B is consideration and action of resolution approving the fiscal year 2022 budget for the Greenville Board of Development. Greg?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just say this, that the board is very conscious of the fact of, like I said earlier, return on investment and paying attention to, you know, our budget and making sure we're hitting the marks. You know, I want to recognize all our board members, Chairman Mark Scott and Vice Chairman Sean Franklin, David Ellis, Chet Haney, Holly Gray, Tim Dooley, and Jerry Morris, and my staff, Don Dixon and Barbara Carter, who's in the back, for a job well done this past year. We've had, you know, dealing with 2020 was not fun for anyone, especially in our business when it's business development time. But we did have to see some things happen. But most importantly, we stayed within budget, and that we didn't suffer like we thought we were going to in the sales tax area. I mean, when Terry was chairman, I was afraid we were really going to lose a lot of money. Thankfully, our big stores helped us out, and our citizens helped us out. You know, so you know, this year, you know, we're tracking with Juice and on the estimated revenues, and with the city on estimated sales tax revenues. In this budget, we're tracking that about the same numbers. We definitely put in there some additional money for, if y'all know, we do the Bob Wills Fiddle Festival every year. We get that we ask for sponsorship help on that every year. We get between $40,000 and $50,000 of company sponsorships to hold that. It's a national contest. We hold it here. We get lots of people come in for that. This year we don't think we're going to get that much sponsorship, so we put some money in there for that. But also we had some revenue in here. We put in here for downtown infrastructure, more money. As we go to see downtown redevelop, these old buildings that are downtown, we don't know what's under the ground. Y'all know this, we have whole pipes. And so, you know, to do some of the things we want to see happen downtown, you know, we don't know what we don't know. So we've got to put stuff in here to figure out, to allow some insurance, if you will, if we get a project come in and it wants to do some development, that we have funds in there to do that. As well as future infrastructure investment, like, for instance, the refrigerator warehouse. They would have not landed in our city had it not be for us and the city to say, we're going to make that road happen, Industrial Drive. And so other things like that, Rutherford Drive, we helped Summer and the city, y'all, redevelop Rutherford Drive that was in terrible shape. And that's kind of our gold key members, if you will, key industrial park. We did put in here, there's some, we're doing some renovation down at the Farmers Market building. If you haven't seen it yet, go down there. If you don't have time, go down and check it out. But it's very rare that a city gets to recruit gourmet chefs to your town. And so what we've done is we've recruited a gourmet chef to start at some famous restaurants, and also worked at some famous restaurants, and actually helped another restaurant here get started. He's decided to do his own thing down here, so we're helping him do that. You know, we don't get brand restaurants to come to downtown. It's very difficult. So, you know, the board saw the need, and they see the return, because we think this is going to help give more ideas about more investors to come to downtown and do things. And that's in here as well. We also put money in here for our reserve fund. We never really get to that unless we have, for instance, a project that is taking over existing space, which could happen because we do still have 400,000 square feet available in the old Rubbermaid building. Now, we're fielding a lot of companies to come look at the Rubbermaid building, but you can be in business in the Rubbermaid building in 60, 90 days, where it takes 12 to 18 months to build a plant. So typically, our budget is built on, mostly on those future plant developments that would happen 12 to 18 months later. But anyway, there is money in there for that as well. Got to be prepared for all those things. But Mayor, we submit this budget to you for approval. Any questions?
Other questions for Greg?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a great project. That's a project in the north side of our town, which is we don't, unfortunately, we don't get a lot of projects that come to us that want to develop. Our industrial park is mainly north. That's where a lot of our big employers are. But for projects like this, which is a private developer, is putting in a warehouse project that will be he is a manufacturer of how do you call this, a dog food supplement item. It's a veterinarian that is bought a piece of land in the north side up there, and he wanted to put in a warehouse and some businesses on a piece of property that would attract, probably 10 jobs, something like that, but it had no water, and you had to bring a water line from all the way to the east over to the west. And so we felt like rather than to put in a 2-inch water line, well, that was not going to help the neighbors to the west. So we paid to upgrade that water line so it would be big enough to continue through past his land and help add connection on the west side. But Project Greens is that project. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Greg, very much. What is the pleasure of the council? Is there a second?
I'll make a motion in a second. I second.
Please vote. And the motion passes unanimously. Moving to item 8D, consideration and action of resolution authorizing JUICE to round up 134 active City of Greenville utility accounts. Summer.
Yes, Mayor. What this will do, all the 134 city accounts that we have, it'll allow JUICE to enroll them in the Roundup program. And so what that'll mean for each month, that's about $132.66 per month, and then the maximum annual cost would be $1591.92. And those are all city accounts that we currently pay out of our current budget as well. And so it would just round those up and then go into that account to help that program.
Okay. And that money is used to help people pay their bills when they need some help.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So are there any questions or discussion on behalf of the council? If not, what is the pleasure of the council?
I move to approve.
Okay, move to approve. Is there a second? Ben seconds. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Item 8D, consideration and action on a resolution nominating a candidate for the Hunt County Appraisal District Board of Directors. Summer?
Yes, Mayor. The Hunt County Appraisal District has sent us a letter that we are to submit nominations for our governing body by October 15th. Members serve a 2-year term beginning in January 1 of the even-numbered years. Currently, we have Mr. Howard Winans that is serving on that board for us. And so if the council would choose to approve, Mr. Winans has expressed interest to continue to serve for the city of Greenville. And so if you guys do approve this will nominate any nominations that they will take for the Hunt County Appraisal District for that board to serve.
Is there any discussion? Is there a motion then to?
I second.
Your second?
I think.
Second. Okay. Motion to second. Please vote. and it passes unanimously. I'm going to postpone items F and G, and we'll move into item H. For some time, I think that members of the council, as long as I've been on the council, have wanted to do something for downtown, some kind of revitalization effort. I think we've spent over the last 10 years or so $1,600,000 revitalizing downtown. But I'd like to appoint a steering committee tonight to look into what we can do for the redevelopment of downtown. It's going to involve our owners, the city, the county. The county currently has plans to do some things for the courthouse. And of course, state highways pass through our downtown. And I'd like to appoint a 16-member committee to look into that. I've asked Dee Hilton and Randy Tarpley to chair the committee. And I'd like to see if they can complete this and have some kind of vision for downtown by December of 2022. And with the passage of the PD 28 tonight, it appears we may be able to use TERS funds to fund a professional consultant to help with that effort. So you have in your packet the committee members that I've spoken with. One of the members that is not in the resolution that we have now is Pud Kearns, who I asked to serve. I'd overlooked her. There are 16 members of the committee, and I'd ask you to consider this resolution.
Mayor, I have one question.
Yeah.
As the comprehensive plan, as it evolves, is creating a vision for downtown, will this ad hoc committee work in concert with the comprehensive plan committee? There are some members that are on both committees.
I suppose it could, but I'd like for this, one of the things I'd like to do, if there is anything, of course tonight, but we may be able to use TERS funds for downtown. There may be other funds, but depending on the infrastructure bill, what happens with that, there may be funds for the underlying infrastructure. But I'd like for this committee to proceed with haste to see what we can do. So I'd like this committee's primary focus to be on downtown, yes.
And I think it's also important for one vision to come out into the comprehensive plan as far as competing ones.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question? Okay. Okay, are there any other questions? If not, what is the pleasure of the council?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, please vote. Okay, it passes unanimously. The next item, 8I, is consideration and action on a resolution appointing members to the Impact Fee Advisory Committee. We've contracted with a contractor to look into the possibility of reinstituting impact fees, and this committee, comprised of those individuals that I've listed, will form the committee that will make a recommendation to the council. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve these appointments?
I second.
Okay, there's a motion to second. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. Carol, would you review the consent calendar for us, please?
August 10th, resolution rescinding resolution 21-22 and authorizing an funding agreement with TxDOT bridge replacement. Ordinance awarding a bid to Mission Critical Partners for the implementation phase of radio system and related scope of work.
Okay. Questions regarding the consent calendar? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I second.
Okay. And it passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is city staff, city council report, live financials. Talia.
financial report as of July 31st, at which point we are 83% through the fiscal year. And as of July 31st, revenues were in at $26.2 million for 100% of expected collections. Again, some of that is CARES Act revenue. Obviously, this doesn't include the ARPA funds that we just received a few days ago. Expenditures are at $22 million or 80% of budgeted expectations. Down at the bottom, we see our revenue broken out into sections: property tax at $8.7 million or 33%, and sales tax close behind at $7.5 million or 29%. We may see that number exceed property tax by the end of the year. So,
Really?
Possibly. Of course, this is July. We still have August, September, so we'll see. Expenditures, public safety, biggest piece of that, $11.9 million or 54%, followed by the non-department at 19%. Again, this is sales tax through July, so year to date through July, we're up just a little bit over $1 million or 15.7% compared to year to date previous year, July. So down there at the bottom, you can see that as of the end of July, we would have only needed $556,000 to exceed our target, and we know, of course, that now this month, we've seen this month's data, we have exceeded that, so you'll see that on next month's council report. And that chart just shows kind of the year-over-year progress that we've seen in sales tax for the city. This slide is looking at only the month of July. So in the month of July, the city portion that we actually end up receiving was $766,000, which if you're just looking at July, we're up around 12% compared to just the month of July previous year. So these are, of course, they're backdated a few months. Those collected in May, reported in June, and we finally receive in July. And then the history of July sales tax, this is just looking at the month of July year over year. Water and sewer fund revenues through July are at $11.9 million or 76% of budgeted expectations. That bottom bar is kind of your total, and then the top line is your water sales, second is wastewater collections, and then the third is kind of your other miscellaneous charges. That's up. I'm sorry? So in the previous year, so what consists of that fund right there is going to be like your cost allocations, your transfers and things like that. So I would need to dig in a little bit further to see what was last year that isn't this year. But it's going to be not anything related to actual sale of water or wastewaters. Hotel, motel, we're going to continue seeing kind of this same, hopefully we'll continue seeing the same sort of trend where we're picking back up and recovering after being closed down. Our current line is the blue line there, and then the red line, of course, is last year. Again, you can see where the shutdown was in the previous year and where we're up again. So this July, we're up 47% compared to July of 2020. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much. Okay, item 11, City Council discussion and proposed agenda items. Anything the City Council would like to discuss? If not, I'll move on to Board and Commission minutes. You have the Greenville Board of Development minutes and the drug-free Greenville annual report before you. And I guess, Daniel, we don't need to go back in executive session. We can take a vote now on that item. Is that right?
On which items? You're talking about with
personnel, the personnel. Come back out. We can vote now.
That's
right?
correct.
Okay. Do you need to introduce or do we just need to make a motion?
I technically can't of the conflict issues, but.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But I mean, this is for separation of two employees. It's been negotiated by our attorneys and is available for your vote tonight.
Okay. Is there a motion then? Okay.
I move to approve the separation agreement for police officers Edward Fed and Ryan
Voted, presented, and discussed in executive.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second. All in favor, please vote. And it passes unanimously. And that's all we have. This session is concluded. We hereby adjourn. Thank you.
The recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to go in Greenville, where every order is a custom order made with fresh ingredients. Wings to go, 7818 Wesley Street in Greenville. Simply great wings.
Need a part for the right price? Look for that red and blue sign. Henley Auto Supply at 1510 Stonewall. Over 800,000 CarQuest parts to choose from. Domestic, European, and Asian parts. Henley Auto Supply at 903-455-1969. 455-1969. Henley Auto Supply has the right part to keep your vehicle running. And backed by the best hometown service. Henley Auto Supply. Great people, great products, great prices. Henley Auto Supply and CarQuest.